Government schools and local libraries should be used for socialist organizing. Yep, that's according to the Marxist lesbian president of the American Library Association. She was trying to run incognito at a major socialism conference that took place last week in Chicago, but she was actually scheduled to speak there. They nixed her from the program after she became a major scandal and embarrassment. But anyway, she went up to one of the mics after a panel discussion and chimed in hugely explosive comments. This is the same lesbian Marxist. By the way, that's how she describes herself. That's not meant as an insult. That's just the way she describes herself. She has become notorious in recent months for basically being an absolute hater. She hates parents. She hates families. She hates Christians. She hates conservatives. She hates anybody else who stands in the way of her plan to indoctrinate children, subvert the family, and have a revolution to bring about a Marxist society. So these bizarre comments about using schools and libraries for socialist organizing, that was at the Socialism 2023 conference in Chicago, organized by a coalition of revolutionary organizations, including Muslim organizations, including communist organizations, and many others. One of the things they were advocating for was for the right of children to engage in prostitution. So, yeah, that's the kind of people she is hanging out with. But she did not hold back in her comments. She says public education needs to be a site of socialist organizing. Listen.
Hi, I'm Emily, and I'm a librarian. I just wanted to say this, but I think your point that public education needs to be a site of socialist organizing, I think libraries really do too, and I haven't seen that for the working in libraries, but I think there's a real opportunity here to both connect what's happening in public education, what's happening in libraries, but also we need some help in the libraries. We need to be on the agenda of organizing.
Yeah, we need to be on the agenda of socialist organizing, says Emily Drabinsky, this lesbian Marxist who only identified herself as a librarian named Emily when she went out to the mic. So this panel that she was on, that she spoke at, was really nefarious. We know because an infiltrator with hidden camera and microphone went in there. She posted all this on Substack. But she says, among other topics, they were talking about how teachers could ignore the law and brainwash children with critical race theory propaganda, even in jurisdictions where that is not legal. Pretty crazy, but of course, that is what these people believe. So the American Library Association, they actually chose this lesbian Marxist last spring, and very quickly we had a firestorm of criticism. It came out that she had blasted angry white mob parents who were seeking to protect their children from grooming, sexualization, LGBT propaganda, race mongering, etc. And actually, in a 2009 article, this came out in the news recently. She said she started identifying as a lesbian at age 14 after she read a library book about two homosexuals having what she described as fantastic queer sex in a field. So she thinks other 14-year-olds should be getting these types of propaganda books at their schools so that they too can understand the glories of fantastic queer sex in a field. Folks, this is crazy, right? These are the people who are using your tax money to hurt your children. One of the big groups that was part of this event in Chicago, the Democratic Socialists of America. A lot of these groups are really fringe, wackadoodle revolutionaries. Democratic Socialists of America is an incredibly powerful group. They've got a lot of their minions in the U.S. Congress, believe it or not. They had panels at this conference on abolishing the family and replacing it with government. Yep, true story. Also, they had a panel on best practices for developing socialist programming for kids. Another panel called for abolishing the police and the U.S. border. One called for creating an alliance between socialists, pro-abortion fanatics, and transgender activists to fight Christians. And so good things are happening despite this madness. Actually, you guys probably remember the mass exodus we saw from state school boards out of the National School Boards Association after they got caught asking the Biden regime to target parents as terrorists for opposing the madness going on in the public schools. Well, now more and more people are calling for state library groups to ditch the American Library Association, and it's starting to happen. Just this summer, citing the far-left ideologies and the Marxist leader of this atrocity, the Montana State Library Commission voted to leave. They said in their statement, our oath of office and resulting duty to the Constitution forbids association with an organization led by a Marxist. Kudos, Montana State Library Commission. Another official who chimed in here, Elsie Arnson, she's the Montana Superintendent of Public Instruction. She said, Ms. Drabinsky is a supporter of critical race theory, which Montana rejected as discriminatory, and other far left-leaning ideologies that have no place in our schools and libraries. By electing a declared Marxist as their president, the ALA has not only turned its back on families, parental rights, and American values, it has turned its back on America itself. Folks, if your state library is still part of this, if your state library association is still paying your tax money as dues to this horrific, monstrous organization targeting your children, you should make a few phone calls. Folks, taxpayer funding is being weaponized here, and it's being weaponized to foment a revolution against us, the people paying for this, the people footing the bill for this kind of dangerous extremism. It's time for the library systems to leave the ALA, and it's time for the government to stop turning our children into Marxists and revolutionaries using these government schools. The system needs to be shut down, and the future of our country is literally on the line. Thanks, guys.